We are now going to be joined by Dee Mclellan, a NASA Solar System Ambassador. Dee will be showing us how to turn the constellation of Pegasus, which is the globe at night constellation that we're looking for right now, into a 3D mobile so that you can visualize just how stars look in space. Now, as mentioned earlier, you can find a step-by-step instructions and materials list on the activities page of our main statewide Star Party website. We'll post the link in the chat window for you. But if you have your materials ready to go, let's get them out and welcome Dee. Thank you so much for joining us and having this fun craft activity for us tonight.
I'm very glad to be here. And I'm coming from you from Anoka County in Minnesota and from my kitchen. And outside, I have my fireplace going. And I have been out a couple times already. And I did see Mars, very brilliant. There's a few clouds on and off. And I was able to see a few of the stars of Pegasus. I was out a little bit earlier when there was a few clouds, but after we're done making this really fun craft, then I'm going to head back out there and check it out again. So you probably would like to know where Pegasus is, and you've seen this map several times already this week. And the neat way to find it is just look for a big square, sort of central there. And right now, Mars is right near it. So that's an easy way to go out and find it, is find Mars and then just almost look straight up and you'll see Pegasus, at least from Minnesota. Now, here is a closer up view of what that constellation looks like. And this you can download from the museum website, and you can download the directions. And that's what I've done here. So let's go ahead and start to build this constellation. Now, I already had a question tonight because I asked my grandkids to join us tonight and build this fun project together. And I have 14 grandkids. So one of them already asked me the question. They said, "Grandma, what is a constellation?" And I said, well, okay, that is an interesting question because we've talked a lot tonight about things you can see in the sky, but you know, we refer to constellations a lot. So what is a constellation? Well, it's actually a Latin word that means a group of stars. It's a grouping. So a lot of the constellations are just areas of the sky that have a group of stars that we can see. And like I said, this one tonight looks like a big square, but it's called Pegasus. Now, how did it get that name? Well, actually, different cultures have sort of an imagination of images you can make with those constellations or those star groupings. And we even heard about that this week, that different cultures have different pictures they sort of see with the stars in the sky. Well, our Pegasus here, this is really only half of a horse. And it's not just any horse, it's a flying horse. So what we see in the sky is this big triangle, or I'm sorry, square, and then it sort of goes down south. This part here is a head, the head, and then these two kind of going out here, that's the couple legs on Pegasus. And then we don't really see the rest of the wings and the legs unless you just use your imagination. Now, there's no lines in the sky. So when you look up there, you are only going to see the stars. We have to sort of do the lines in our imagination. So let's get started making our constellation of Pegasus. And we start off with, we need to make a sky background. So what you can do is look around your house and pick out something. It's kind of nice to have something stiff. I selected a piece of foam core that I had. Now there's also a piece of cardboard would work. Even just a piece of construction paper can work. But I decided I wanted to use this rigid foam core because eventually we're going to hang it up like this with things hanging down. So what I decided to make it look like the night sky is I did pick a piece of black construction paper, and I'm going to glue that on top of this foam core. Now you might pick a piece of cardboard and take out a black color crayon and color it black. Or maybe you want some auroras in your sky. So you can take lots of different colors and put some pretty auroras in your sky. And we learned what those were. Those are called, I like to call them either auroras or northern lights. They're very beautiful to see. A lot of times you see greens and pinks, and they are very exciting to see. Or you can do something like I'm doing. I'm just gluing this piece of black paper to my foam cord. All right, now, you know how those cooking shows, they sort of stick something in the oven and then they pull it out and it's done. Well, I sort of did this earlier. I already glued a piece so that we'd have that dry and ready to go for our background night look. Now, the next thing you need is the constellation itself. And if you have been on the website, you can actually download this template of the constellation. And I decided, since I had a pretty big piece of foam core, that I just took my copy machine and I blew it up a little bit. So I'm going to use my little bit bigger piece here, and I'm just going to position it on my foam core where I like it. And then you can either tape this, because it's only going to be on there momentarily, or for a few moments anyway, or you can just hold it like I'm going to do. And then I'm going to use a really cool tool that I have, and I've got it right here. It's called a sharpened pencil. Now, remember, they tell you in school, don't throw these around. And I'm a school teacher, by the way, so just mentioning that because it's so sharp, we're going to poke with it right now. You know, you're never supposed to poke with pencils, otherwise they're for writing, but tonight you get to poke with your pencil. So I'm going to go ahead and tilt my camera here, and you might be able to see a little bit about what I'm doing. But the idea here is to just go ahead and poke through each one of those places where there is a star in the constellation Pegasus. Again, constellation is just that grouping of stars that are around the same area in the sky. And many times we have a picture that we think about for that constellation. All right, remember, in the sky there's no lines, so when I take this off, you will see that I have just holes in my now cardboard connected to my foam core. All right, and you can see my holes a little bit, because if I tilt it a bit, you can see that white area there, that's the foam core beneath. Now, this actually looks more like what you'll see when you go outside and look in the sky tonight. Again, try to focus on trying to see this big square area in the sky, and then you can kind of look for the offshoot here of, this is supposed to be the head and a couple of the front legs, okay? Now, again, Mars should be off in this direction. So if you find Mars, it's maybe tilted a bit more like this in the sky, then you can probably find this big square and look from there. And remember, what you're supposed to do is register online and tell us what kind of sky you're seeing. Is it a 2 or a 3 or a 4 or a 5 or a 6? That's depending on what kind of light you're having reflected out in that sky from Earth, or we're sending up from Earth, and how well you can see that constellation in the sky. And again, I'm going to head out after we're done here and try that myself. All right, now these are our stars. So the next thing we want to do is make some stars to put on this constellation. Now, it looks to us when we look in the sky that everything in this constellation is just flat. So like maybe if I was in some kind of spaceship, I can't land on the stars because they're like our sun. They're, producing this sort of nuclear generated energy. But maybe if I wanted to go from this star to this star, which might have a whole solar system going around it, we have to check that out. It's really tricky. They're so far away. But if I wanted to do that, then I could not just go in a straight line like this, because these stars are actually farther or closer to the Earth than we see in the sky, because to us, it just looks like it's flat. Okay, that's not true. So that's what we're going to find out while we make our craft tonight, how close and how far away these stars are from us. So the next thing we need is some stars. So we decided, or the directions tell us to use some aluminum foil, and just take a nice bit of aluminum foil, and we're going to need how many stars? Well, on here, you see we had numbers for the stars. That's kind of nice because some of those stars is kind of the tricky names to pronounce. So we can just call them for now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So that's how many stars we're going to need. And our directions say we should make those stars for the aluminum foil 4 inches by 4 inches. So I happen to have aluminum foil that's just 12 inches apart. So I'm going to take on the dull side of the aluminum foil because I want the shiny side going out. I'm going to mark off, 4 inches and then 4 more, which makes 8, and then 12 going one way. And let me show you that. I just marked it off here. And then I'm going to go the other way and mark off. Let's see here, we've got 4 and then 4 again. All right, and actually I can put my camera down here so you can watch as I'm doing this. And I think aluminum foil is a really, really good thing to use because it's kind of a sparkly thing. And have you heard the song Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star? How many of you have heard that? You don't have to answer me, or you can if you want, but I bet most of you have heard that. Well, that's an interesting thing because stars twinkle. All right. Now, I know some of you guys have like the question answer box, but if you know what that means, that stars twinkle, or can explain what that means, why don't you type that into the question box? Instead of a question, put an answer. What does it mean that stars twinkle? And then maybe Sarah, you can just jump in here and tell me if you see an answer about twinkling stars. And in the meantime, you see what I'm doing here is I'm just drawing some lines to make these 4 by 4 squares on my aluminum foil. And then I'm just going to take that and cut those out.
Well, somebody was saying that maybe the twinkling is flares.
So like layers in the star itself. So there might be layers in there. All right.
Or flares, like a solar flare.
Oh, flares. Oh, because like our sun, we have flares coming off of that. All right. It sure could be, but that's not actually what's making it twinkle from Earth, because it's really something that we're seeing from Earth. And I think that's really a great answer because you were just listening, I bet, to hearing how the sun works. And you gave us an idea, the sun is like a star, and they are, because our sun is our star in our solar system, okay? We have a name for our sun too, it's called Sol. That's why we call our system the solar system. All right, any other answers in there, Sarah?
Yes, we have a few, so I'll just go ahead and read them down.
Yes,
one question is like, do stars actually twinkle? Another one is, are they being eclipsed by debris?
Mm-hmm.
They are planets. Another one is, I think it's because of the heat in the star. Or gas moving on the star. Maybe the atmosphere. Big balls of gas shining.
All right.
Any of these hitting home, Dee?
I think you got the one that I think a couple of them there is, to start with, atmosphere. Because our Earth is surrounded by air. In fact, would you like some? Just reach out and grab it. There's some air, okay? There's stuff in this air that's called gases. And so what happens is when we're looking at the sky, this star that's coming to us from so far away actually is one point of light, just a tiny little point of light. Even those stars far, far away, could be much bigger than even our sun. But by the time they get here, the light from that star is just a little point. So what happens is our atmosphere, the gases are moving, and it actually makes that little point of light jump around. And that's what we call twinkling. So someone said debris. Well, debris, if you want to call gases debris, I guess that would work too. So we've got our little squares, and like I said in the cooking show, I had several of them made already. And so we're going to go ahead and start to make our stars. Now, we want to hang our stars from the constellation because we want to show how far away the stars are from each other. So let's start with that first one, which is right here, number 1. And we're going to take some string. Now, I have plenty of string here. So I did something was I just took my ruler here. Instead of trying to measure out exactly how far we want to make each one, I just took my ruler and measured out some long pieces of string and cut them off. And for this first one, you want to make them longer than they're going to be. So for this first one, if you look at how far away or how far we should make the string for each one of them, this first one is 0. We have 0. Okay, what does that mean? That means that's going to be right on top of this paper. All right, it's actually the furthest star away. So when we hang this up, it's going to be all the way up to where the paper is. So I just cut a short string for that because I'm going to show you what we're going to do after. We need a little bit of room on each end to attach it to our paper. So I have a way I do the stars. You can kind of do it this way too, is I take the shiny side, I put that down, and I put the dull side up, and then I just take some Scotch tape, take off a little piece and tape it right there in the center. Then I start to curl in like this. I like to do the corners in once, kind of toward the string. This doesn't have to be perfect. You can work up your own way to do it. And then I start to fold those corners in. Make sure we get the string sticking out. And then I crush it up as little as I can. And we have a pretty twinkly star hanging from that string now, okay? All right, now this star is way too giant for scale. All right, what's scale? Well, scale is we're measuring how far it is, and then we have to make it so it fits on our paper. So it's way too big, but it's supposed to be representing our star, which would be literally smaller than, at this scale, smaller than the end of this string. Okay, but we want it to show up and be pretty because we want to add some beauty to what we're making besides just some science. So it's kind of a between science and art, which is a great way to express what we see in our universe. All right, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put, you could just measure where this is supposed to be and just tape it there, but I'm going to actually push it through. And sometimes if you have really something skinny, it might work better, but I'm going to use this really great tool again, the pencil, and I'm going to poke that string right through the hole where number 1 is supposed to go. Okay, and I'm going to poke it in there. And if my pencil is a little too big, I got some of these neat things. They're just some skewers that you use for making shish kebabs. And then I reach through and I've got that string. I'll bring it up here so you can see it. And I just pull it through. And this one is 0. So I'm going to pull it through till it's right there. And then another piece of tape. And I'm going to tape that to the back. And just cut off my extra string. And that way I didn't have to measure anymore. Now, like I said, if you're doing a cooking show, you've got a couple of these ready. So I've got another one ready here. And actually, I've been working on this. So pull it out of the oven and look at, I've got a lot of it done. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and show you I'm going to put in this last couple. I'm going to tell you a couple tips though. When you're putting this in, these strings can kind of get tangled. So I started with number 1, but then I went all the way up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then I put 10, 11, 12 in, and now I'm going to put in 8 and 9. All right. So they're up here at the top. And so take my string. Now the other one was 0. So now we have to find out what size or string do we need for 8. So first I'm going to poke it in. And as we're doing this, getting this one put in, I think Sarah mentioned, and I know it's on the website, that I'm a solar system ambassador, which is a really great job. I don't know if you know what an ambassador is. An ambassador is someone that goes from one country to another country and sort of represents their country in the foreign country. So I guess I'm here on Earth, and what I'm representing is things that are going on in the solar system. Now, what is a solar system? So that's my next question. What is a solar system? And maybe if you want to try to put those answers into the question box, and Sarah, if you see any answers coming in, you can tell me what these people are saying, the viewers, a solar system is. All right, and while we're waiting for some answers, you can see I've fed my string through. Now I'm going to look up on my directions, number 8 I'm working on here, star number 8. And it says it's supposed to be 9.6 inches. Okay, but that's not how far it really is from Earth. It's really 167. We'll talk about that in a minute. Light years. All right, so let's work on what is a solar system first. And I'm going to measure out. So I've got my string here, you can see, and I'm going to take my ruler. What I usually like to do is I like to pull the string shorter. And then I put my ruler right there using the inches. And I go out to 9. And then it says 0.6. Well, that's a little more than a half. So that's the easiest way to do it for, so a little more than 9.5. We have actually another one that is 9.5. Then I just keep that right in that spot. Mine doesn't slip around too badly, so I can put my tape and go ahead and tape that one in place. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut that off. Did we get any answers, Sarah?
We do. We have a number of them coming in. So
right. What do we got?
A few viewers have voted up that they're the planets in the system we live in. Solar system is a cluster of planets, stars, comets, and has one main star that has great magnetic pull to keep everything in place.
Okay.
Group of planets orbiting a star. A solar system is where we live in a solar system. It holds planets and stars. Our name is Sol, like you said. And so a solar system is the space around our star with planets and asteroids and meteors. Solar system is a lot of planets in orbit around the sun. So it sounds like we have a pretty good understanding of what a solar system is.
It sounds like it. So we have a 1-star system. And like we said, the sun's name is the Sol or Sol. And so our solar system is all those things that are orbiting around the sun or orbiting around something that's orbiting around the sun. Now, what would that be? Well, that'd be like our moon. Our moon is orbiting around the Earth, and the two of us are orbiting around the sun. So, and other things. And even some moons have, or some asteroids have moons going around them. We have some dwarf planets that have moons going around them, and they're all going around the sun.
We have a cool question that just came in about a solar system.
What do we got?
Is the solar system the main star system in the universe?
Ooh, wow. That's a big question, and that was a joke. So the universe is a collection of galaxies, and galaxies a collection of stars, and then stars could have things going around it, and probably do because they have a lot of gravity. And so we are not the main one. We are one of many, many, many possible star systems, and we have found other planets that go around other stars. So we're not the main one, but we are the main one to us because we're here. And so that's main to us. That matters. All right. So I guess we have to define the word main, right? So I hope that answers your question. That's right. We are not the main one, but we are one of many. And for us, though, I'd say we're the main one. All right. Now, the next one, number 9, is 7.5. So I'm going to go ahead and go out to 7 inches here. And here we got to see it. Almost there. And a half. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and tape that. And now we're just about ready to talk about our constellation. I know some of you might not be this far. That's the magic of, just working on it ahead of time. Or some of you, maybe you went and downloaded the directions and you already built yours, which would be really great too. But gives you a chance to work for a bit. All right, now let's talk about this, what we've got here, because mine is done. Those were the last 2. So now what do I got? I got a lot of stars hanging on strings from nowhere, okay? So first of all, the strings are supposed to be space. We only need the strings because we have to have something to hang our stars on. So the idea is you hang this up like in your bedroom, over your bed or somewhere on the ceiling, and then you look straight up, and I would recommend closing one eye. So you just have, because when you close one eye, you kind of get 2-dimensional vision, and then you should be able to see that square, and then all the stars line up. But that's how we see it from Earth. But from space, these stars would be this far apart. Only remember, they're just little points, so they're not quite so large as in our mobile, but it makes it pretty. Now, I thought this was a really kind of a nifty mobile, but I decided to sort of try doing a few things on my own a little differently. Let me show you what I experimented with. Okay, for one thing, it's really hard for me to show you what I'm talking about with strings. So I took these skewers and used skewers instead and made really little stars. So now I can just turn this and, you can kind of start to see that square right there, and then where the legs should be. And yet those stars are all these different positions in space. Okay, so now I can kind of show you without them wiggling all over the place, or you could hang it up above you and look at it that way. So I just made this sort of, so it's easier for me to switch from the, like 2-dimensional to the 3-dimensional, which remember would be like this because we're looking from Earth. Now, the other thing I did, it's hanging above me, and I'm going to turn my camera up here. So you see this dangly one, and notice what I used here. You don't see the strings as much because I used fish line instead. Now, fish line is very tangly though, so you have to be careful because that one got tangly. If you bump it or anything, they really swing around each other a lot. But I actually did one more thing, and let me see if I can show you this. I actually made my fish line so I could pull all of the stars up. So I'm going to start to do that. I put them on, made the holes, and actually this works better if I tilt it because I get those. I put toothpicks on here so that I could pull them up And then I could turn it over. In fact, if I do turn it over, the toothpicks kind of take over. And I can just kind of pop the stars up on top. You see why I'm ending with this, because it takes a moment to get them straight and not tangled. But if you do, that one off. There we go. If you do, you can end up finally with your constellation flat again, which I'm not quite getting in our time frame, but you get the idea. And then I would be able to show it to you flat. I didn't quite get them all pulled up the right way. So that is fun. And then using the fish line, and see, I just used toothpicks to hold them. And you can just tape it too. You don't have to have it pull up like mine. Then it looks like space. So that's another thing you can do. All right, now back to our stars for just a moment, because really our measurements were from Earth to the star, like the first one, that one that's way up here on the paper, that was 690 light years away. Now, what is a light year? Does anybody have an idea what a light year is? Because it's not 690 years away from this one. It's 690 ways away from us down here on Earth when we're looking up at it. And each one of these, the second one is 67 light years away. All right. So actually, you could even figure out how many light years this one is from this one. As far as up and down, it might not be quite so much as in a triangle, because all of these you'd have to do a little math. But this would really be a great math lesson. Sarah, is there anyone who has typed in what they think is a light year? What is a light year?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, for time's sake.
Oh, one just came in. The
Cool.
time light moves in a year.
That's it.
A year of light away.
Yes, a year of light away. So light is traveling fast. In fact, when you turn on a light, ping, it's there, right? Okay, but if you start from the sun, that light that comes from the sun, and when we go out and we don't look directly at the sun, but we have sunlight, it takes 8 minutes to get here. And that's really odd to think about. It's like turn on the sun, click, and then time. 8 minutes later, it's here. You go, what? But you see, there's a continuous amount of light coming. So that is the thing about light is these things called photons are just continually coming. It's a stream of light. So when the sun is rising, you don't have to wait 8 minutes because you see it right now. So it's really kind of a neat thing. Now, why do I think this is so neat with our constellation? And we're going to go out and look if we can see these stars that far away, because light has to travel that far in a year. And like the first one, 690 years, the light has traveled through space. But the thing about it is, if you go out and look at it, not just a picture, but you look at it, you are actually getting the light into your eyes that has traveled that far through space. And at one time was at that star. So you are actually sort of capturing something coming from space. And that's why it's so exciting to just go out and look at the stars. There's a connection there between the light and you and your eye. And then if you look at a telescope, then you can see it a little more up close. And again, it's really lovely because when we can't do all of that, we have our wonderful partners here that can use their telescopes and send it across the internet, and we can watch on the screen. So it's great if you can go out and see it with your eye, but otherwise we've got great screenshots to be able to see too. Live screenshots. So like the eclipse that we can't all go to this year, but we can watch it live if we'd like to, and that's a really neat experience. All right, that is our activity for tonight. And Sarah, I think we're really close to needing to hand it off so we can see some of those things in the sky.
So thank you, Dee. One of the questions are, and this is a great example of this activity, is that stars are actually very far apart. And the activity Dee just led us through shows you that some of them are 600 or more light years away, where some of them are only like 67. So those lengths of string in this activity that you just did with Dee shows you how some of them with longer strings are closer to Earth because it'd be closer to the ground once you hang your mobile up. But the stars with really short strings are really close to that foam core or your construction paper. Those are so far away from the Earth. They're the farthest from the ground. And so it shows you just how far apart stars really are in outer space. So thank you so much for Dee, because that's a really hard concept to grasp. It's how big space is and how far away things really are. So thank you.
You're welcome. And if you want to know more about the solar system, you can go to solarsystem.nasa.gov. There's so much there to find out about the solar system. All right, back to you.
Okay, well, thank you. So we do hope you at home have followed along with Dee. If you created your constellation mobile already, we'd love to see it. Take a picture of your mobile and share it with us on social media using the hashtag MNStarParty. All the instructions for this activity and other fun family-friendly activities are posted on our website for the statewide star party, including the templates for this activity, and then the Globe at Night, a citizen science project as well, because we're trying to get 500 observations from here in Minnesota this week. And tonight and tomorrow are the closest to the new moon, and it's going to be perfect for viewing because the moon won't be in our way. So definitely take advantage of the night skies this weekend and go have fun. Take a look at our activities and resources page for fun things to do at home.